and they found that it was a great indicator of long-term mortality. And they found that extremely high aerobic fitness was associated with the greatest survival and was also associated with benefit in older patients and those with hypertension. But the ones at the lowest, who were categorized as low fitness levels, those are also the people that had more of these comorbidities. You know, they smoked, they had coronary arterial disease, they had more incidences of diabetes, hypertension. Once you have your test done, then we can get really scientific about what it all means, how it can benefit you, because at the end of the day, that's the most important thing in your health journey is having the right data at the right time so that you're not playing guessing games in your health. Hey everybody, it's Regan and welcome to the Health Accelerator Challenge. And today we're going to be talking about metabolic health and how you can look at your VO2 max and actually see how your body's performing. And so I'm going to share with you a couple studies that I found very impressive. And then I'm going to make a special announcement for all of you that want to see how you're trending when it comes to longevity. I know so many of you do, but one of the most powerful tests you can do is a VO2 max test. So I'll be kind of unveiling what we're doing here at East West. And so you can come down to our center and have this test done very soon. And so this particular, the study I'm referencing is called Association with Cardiorespiratory Fitness with Long-Term Mortality Amongst Adults Undergoing Exercise Treadmill Testing. And really what they wanted to do is they had 122,000 patients who did a VO2 max test. And so they did this on a treadmill. And they wanted to look at all-cause mortality, and also they wanted to see if extreme cardiorespiratory fitness was associated with the lowest risk of all-cause mortality compared to other performance groups. So really kind of one of the things they wanted to see is if your VO2 max is like the best on the planet, is that going to be to your advantage? And obviously, you know, a lot of us would say, yeah, yes, it is. But we'll dive into some of the nuances on this. And then I'm going to show you some of the great things you can do right away to start improving your cardiovascular and metabolic function. So what this study showed, and it was a long-based study, is after they did these, this test, they found that cardiorespiratory fitness is inversely associated with long-term mortality with no observed upper limit of benefit. And so they put these patients on the treadmills and they tested their VO2 max over a period of almost 10, or 15 years in some of these cases. And they found that it was a great indicator of long-term mortality. And they found that extremely high aerobic fitness was associated with the greatest survival and was also associated with benefit in older patients and those with hypertension. And the fact that it's modifiable, they found that no matter what age, you can actually improve your cardiorespiratory fitness. And so I think that this is just one of those studies that should be able to allow you to look at your cardiorespiratory fitness and say, well, what could we do a little better? And so in the VO2 max, in this test, the average age was 53 years old. That ranked them. The low people who scored in the bottom 25th percentile, and then below average was the 25th to 50th percentile, 50th to 75 was above average, and then 75th to maybe 95th was high, but then the elite was that top 5%. And once again, what they found is there's no limit, and that's pretty interesting because of this 122,000 people There was about 3,500 of those who were in the elite. So how many of you are in the elite group? And, probably we have people listening right now who may hit that elite category. How many of you don't really know where you'd fall into this? And so that's where it's important to come in and get the test. So what you'll find is the biggest gap is people at the bottom 25%. And so if you haven't exercised in a long time, and if you're looking for a little motivation, hopefully this is not a guilt-ridden or anything that makes you just feel like, oh man, this is impossible to even get started. But the ones at the lowest who are categorized as low fitness levels, those are also the people that had more of these comorbidities. They smoked, they had coronary arterial disease, they had more incidences of diabetes, hypertension, and so if you can, start looking at your health, and if you're at that bottom 25 percentile. Don't worry, because what they found in the study is that even people who were at that level actually made massive improvements. And if you've heard me talk about Charles Euster on this podcast, you probably remember that he's a retired dentist who just picked up exercise in his 80s. He actually took up bodybuilding. He hired a former Mr. Olympian to train him, and he got put on an enormous amount of muscle and lost a lot of fat. I mean, I think in his book he mentioned he put on nearly 20 pounds of muscle, and his whole body structure changed. And then he took up sprinting. I think his first world record, he was age 91, maybe 93. And then he went on to win several other world records. And when he's asked, like, oh, how do you do it, Charles? And he's like, well, when you get old enough, there's no competition. So, so for those of you who are looking to break some world records, just live a really long time, but keep your VO2 max up. I think that's kind of the moral of this study. If you can go from being low to just being average, on a VO2 max, so like 50% in that kind of average range, you will reduce your mortality over a decade. So you'll live 10 years longer just by getting to the average VO2 max. If you go from low to above average, then you're going to have, a 60 to 70% reduction in mortality. And then it just continually increases. So it's pretty interesting if you can just get to that like average to above average. Not only will you add at least a good decade onto your life, but that last decade of our life, what some researchers call the marginal decade, that's when we fall off a cliff. And that's when, it's usually the worst decade of our life. And our goal here is to help you have a compressed morbidity. So you want to live life to the fullest and be as healthy as possible. And then when it's your time, die fast. And that's really the goal. And the VO2 max is one of those predictive markers, according to this study. And this study was, once again, 122,000 people. It was over a couple of decades monitoring these people. But yeah, the study, what they found is if you compare someone of low fitness to elite, you have a 5-fold difference in mortality over a decade. So man, if you want to have 5 times greater risk of dying, then just have a really low VO2 max. Just don't move your body or breathe. And I think this is where my favorite season's coming up, which is mountain biking season, because that's when I can notice a big spike in my VO2 max. So the biggest issue that people had when they didn't exercise, I mentioned some of these diseases earlier, but there's type 2 diabetes, there's coronary arterial disease, there's high blood pressure, there's end-stage renal disease, and end-stage renal disease is about 180% increase in mortality. So as you've seen, as we read your blood labs, we're looking at your creatinine markers, your blood urea nitrogen, looking at your GFR, and we want to make sure that your kidneys are very healthy because those are your longevity organs. And a lot of people, they just like, oh, my kidneys have always been slightly off. And so, and they will be if you exercise pretty heavy the day before, or especially the morning of. So, make sure that you're giving your body a break before you get your blood drawn, because that can, if you're lifting weights and there's some muscle breakdown and degradation, that can increase your kidney markers. And it can also increase your liver enzymes. Your ALT and AST can go up. So these are a couple things that we watch for. But generally, that GFR is that glomerular filtration rate. It's an estimation in your blood labs. That's the one that you want to be very careful of. So VO2 max, the biggest thing is if you want to improve your mortality, it comes from improving your fitness. And so the big announcement that we've got is we are now able to offer you VO2 max testing right here in the clinic. As you know, we've got a little gym where we can take you into, and there's treadmills, there's bikes. If you can't run on a treadmill, we can put you on one of the stationary bikes there, so that we can get your heart rate up to the level that you need to, so you can really push yourself to get your exact VO2 max. And so I want to hear how many of you are in that elite category. And then not only that, it doesn't even matter if you're an elite, and that's not really the goal. The goal is to get you to the above average level. And that's where your life expectancy, the most important thing is to stay at average or above average for as long as you possibly can. And yes, if there are massive benefits to being in that elite category. And, we've seen people in their 80s have very solid VO2 maxes that, most 20-year-olds don't have, but it's rare. But the most important thing is being average to above average in your VO2 max score. And that's where you're going to mitigate a lot of these chronic diseases. So one of the things, one of the devices we brought in is called the Pnoe. And I'll share the screen with you here. But one of the things that Pnoe does is it can help us identify your macronutrients. We can identify the best workouts for you, and it helps us assess all of the main pillars of longevity. So it can help us assess your mental health and cognitive capacity, your cellular health, your heart health, your lung health. There's things we'll do for your posture, but one of the beautiful things about the Pnoe is it goes beyond just a VO2 max. We'll be able to tell you what your metabolic fitness is, your resting metabolic rate, your fat burn efficiency, your heart fitness, lung fitness, breathing and cognition, breathing and posture. And so for those of you who are listening to this, I'm just sharing kind of this is an example of what the results look like after you do the Pnoe test. So it shows you if you've got metabolic disease risk, if you're at no risk or high risk. So this is one of those metrics that's really important, because with the Pnoe, if you have a Garmin or a Whoop or an Apple Watch where you're tracking your fitness, which we highly recommend, then now our fitness team and our health advisors are going to be able to help you dial in what's working the best and what's helping you improve your VO2 max. And then we'll have the diagnostic tests to go along with your fitness goals. Once we saw the study, we said, man, we really want to start utilizing this technology. And then the medical team, what we'll be doing is using peptides to help improve it. So some of the peptides that have been studied directly, like MOTS-C for exercise and fitness. MOTS-C is a mitochondrial-derived peptide where it activates the satellite cells in your muscles, so you get better muscle contraction. You get an energy increase from AMPK. And it's a great peptide to help activate heat shock proteins so that you can build muscle mass. The other peptides we'll be using are like sarcotropin for the growth hormone side of things. We'll use the recovery blend with your BPC 157, TB500, or thymosin beta 4. And then we'll also be utilizing like GHK copper with KPV. It's a phenomenal blend if you're looking to recover faster. So we'll want to look at based on what your labs show and based on what your PNOE scores are, then we'll want to look at what's going to help move the needle so that when we retest your VO2 max, you're in that above average and, based on what your goals are. But we just want to make sure that, you're at the highest level of VO2 max possible now and then in the future. And this is not, we're using it more of a longevity device. And one of the metrics that we can test that predicts your body's ability to recover and your body's ability to live health, so have an extended lifespan and health span. The other thing that we're using this for is so that we can give you present day information and start really moving things in the right direction. So this is the metabolic fitness side. They talk about how it's measured on your resting heart rate. There's a bunch of different things that we'll be walking you through here. And then the beautiful thing about this is there's recommendations that will be there, based on breathing, posture, cognition. They'll give you recommendations on certain foods, broccoli, dark chocolate, fermented foods, maybe some. On the lifestyle side, meditation, getting out in the sun, especially as the sun's rising or as the sun's setting. I'm in Austin, Texas right now. I went for a nice run around the city after a little weight workout and went up to the Texas Capitol here in Austin. And it's a really, really cool building. But getting out, and that was as the sun was coming up. It's a little gloomy here, not quite rain, but just kind of hot and muggy. But there's a lot of lifestyle things. The other thing that the PNOE device is going to be able to predict is what your caloric balance is. So based on your resting metabolic rate and your daily activities and your active calories, and then based on your goals, it will be able to predict exactly how many calories you need. So a lot of you, you've been reaching out and said, okay, you're perfect weight that you want to be. And in order to get there, you've had to be in a caloric deficit for so long. And so now we're trying to keep the muscle mass on and to just put your body at that set point. And so this will be helpful because a lot of you are realizing you're not eating enough calories, you're not eating enough food. And, we're big advocates of you getting about 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, getting in lots of vegetables. We're big advocates of, shoot for around vegetables per day and cook those if possible. Get some really healthy resistant starches in, some of your sourdough breads, especially if you put it in the freezer, that changes the nature of the starches. So you can put it in the freezer, take it out, and then toast it or do whatever. You don't have to try to chew on bread frozen. That would probably hurt your teeth. But the other thing is like sweet potatoes, yams, those are really good sources of resistant starch, rice. It's making sure that you've got really healthy foods in your life. Add some avocados in there, some coconut, and you're off. But if you want to get your body to the next level, then understanding what calories you need and how the quantities are going to be impacted based on your activities. So, someone who is really pushing themselves, days that you work out, you want to increase your caloric consumption, usually by 300 to 400 calories, unless you're trying to lose weight. If you're not trying to lose weight and you just want to maintain, then remember on the days that you push harder, you're going to expend more energy. And so you can replenish those with some of the foods. And so you can see that the Pinoy device and the VO2 Max is going to help us understand what your body's metabolic needs are. And then we'll also be able to show your nutrient, your macronutrient balance. So on your workout days, this is on the sample test. They found that somebody on workout days at their weight and their VO2 max, they need 152 grams of protein, approximately 118 grams of fat, and then around 342 grams of carbohydrates. So that will replenish those glycogen stores. On the non-workout days, 129 grams of protein, 101 of fat, and then 292 of carbs. So pretty interesting as you start breaking down these macros. Now, and I'm not saying these are the macros that you want to go off of. I'm just saying we're going to once you have your test done, then we can get really scientific about what it all means, how it can benefit you, because at the end of the day, that's the most important thing in your health journey is having the right data at the right time so that you're not playing guessing games in your health. And I think this is where something like Pinoy can be really helpful. Some of the other things that we're launching into are going to be your ageless future. And so many of you, and congratulations, many of you have been accepted into our Ageless Future program. And so this is one of the foundational tests we'll be using, which is this VO2 Max and Pinoy, and really getting your macros dialed in. I know most of you live outside of Utah, and you're all over the country and even international, and we really appreciate you. But and at some stage we'll be able to bring the Pinoy device with us. When we host retreats, like we're doing today in Austin, Texas. But for the most part, you're going to want to come to the clinic, and we want to see you in here anyways. It's a great time to do your whole body makeover, get any pain gone that you've got. I made a strict policy on my last birthday that I wasn't going to give pain any more free rent. And so, that obviously it falls on me too. I can't beat my body up and not warm up and not cool down when I work out, or, push myself when I know I need a recovery day. But outside of that, I also realized there are places in my body I needed stem cell therapy. And so this is where I had Amy or Dr. Steinley in our office just treat all the areas that were bugging me. And the biggest benefit I got from that is not only did my vertical increase 5 inches. I think many of you, I talked every year when I have a birthday, I set a new year-long goal. And so I did the athletic greatness program all year long. And I did a lot of their protocols for jumping. Tristan also gave me some insights on how to increase my vertical, which was super helpful. So I was able to get about 5 inches. My goal was to be able to touch the rim. And I'm happy to say that I did accomplish my goal of touching the rim. I can actually dunk a basketball as long as the rim is lowered. So, all right, bad joke. So I was able to increase my vertical, not enough to touch the rim, but still 5 inches was great. And so I'm happy with where I'm at there. I just celebrated another birthday a couple days ago, and thanks for all the awesome birthday messages from you guys. So one of my new goals in my Ageless Future program is, because just like I build your protocols, I build my own, and my own are going to be different than yours, because I'm usually using things that I've tested out over the last 6 months or a year, sometimes longer. and then introducing it into your protocols. But part of my next year and my next goal is to improve my baseline. I want to get into that elite category on my VO2 Max, and so I'll be doing a lot of things like the mitochondrial training or VO2 Max training. Sprint. Slow, sprint slow, doing that a few times a week, and then using some of the data from the tests I get. And actually, I'll change my macros pretty dramatically. They're big advocates of using like your proteins, your fats, your carbohydrates to actually, and your nutrition to improve the cardiorespiratory fitness. So that's what I'll be doing. I'm also doing the cord plasma. And so I finished my cord plasma earlier this year, so I'll be doing it again in June or July. Doing stem cell therapy, IVs, intranasal, treating the brain. And then any pain that creeps up, it's gone. I'll be zapping it with some regenerative medicine. And then on the stem cell side, I'll also be doing some things. I need to get my hair treated again, my face. So those would be a couple procedures I'll have done. Peptide wise, right now we can get thymosin alpha 1 and LL37. And so the beautiful thing that I've been using now is the thymosin alpha 1 and LL37 combination. I'm using that, a little bit of melanotan. Moving into the summer months, want to protect my skin and stay tan. And then I'm on NAD, and then also doing the AOD, MOTS-C, and tesamorelin blend. And it's a really good fat burning, muscle building blend. So there's some great things that I'll be working on in my journey, reversing some of the hallmarks of aging. And then I'm excited to see your progress. And so I would love to see you at one of our retreats coming up. Our next one's June 20th. So if you haven't registered for that, get on the calendar. We've got a great group of people coming. The best thing about the retreats is it's how we build community here at East West, because I don't believe healing can happen alone. And I also, I think my team, they're phenomenal. They're world-class at hospitality. They're world-class at what they do. And when you have a chance to come into the office and work with them, you can do more in your health typically in that single day than most people do in a year. And so not only can we get the diagnostics we need from VO2 Max, we'll do the carotid artery scan, and then we can get your biological versus chronological age. We'll want to run blood work if you haven't had any blood labs in the last 3 months, so that we have a capability of going through all your blood labs. We'll do the peptide party, which is really fun. And I'm sure several of you listening have experienced the peptide party, where you get to try all the different peptides and we stack them in a certain way. And then we have the stem cell party. So it's a great chance we buy stem cells in bulk from the lab. And so it's a great time to come in, get stem cells. We'll talk about exosomes. Exosomes are just the signaling factor to turn on the stem cells. And it's just a phenomenal time. And so bring your partner, your spouse, if you've got a friend who's like really interested in what you're doing, and you guys are our walking billboards. People are asking, what do? You look so tan, or you've lost all this weight. And so if that's you, then say, hey, you should come to this longevity retreat with me. And if you can't make it, send them our way and we'll help get them set up. But yeah, those are some things that, I think will be important. Is make sure you surround yourself with a great community, get the right tests going. Don't be reasonable in your health, be unreasonable. And what that means is dive in, do the things that most people are not willing to do. And that's how you can live your best life, have your greatest levels of health, and how you can really start growing all the areas of your life, because no amount of success can undo poor health. So appreciate you guys being part of the community. Hope you enjoyed this today, and we will see you next week.